So we as guitar players are always looking for that thing that's going to help us go to the next level of our playing. Whether that's a theory concept, a lick, an idea, whatever it is, we're always kind of searching for that. And in doing so, we always look at our favorite guitar players for inspiration. But there's one guitar player who is a really well-known guitar player, but more often than not, guitar players do not tend to reference him when they're searching for something really interesting to kind of adapt their playing. And in this video, we are going to talk about that guy. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 things we can learn from Rory Gallagher that can supercharge your blues playing. So Rory Gallagher is not strictly a straight up blues player. He has a bunch of different influences in his playing, blues being a big part of that, but there's also a little bit of classic rock in there. There's a little bit of Celtic music, there's a bit of folk music, there's a little bit of everything in his catalogue. Now, undoubtedly, he is one of the greats, but for whatever reason, when it comes to stealing ideas, we as guitar players never seem to gravitate towards Rory Gallagher as a real source of inspiration to kind of steal some ideas to push ourselves with. But if we actually dig into Rory's entire playing style, he's got a lot of really interesting things in there, which is why I want to share 3 of those things with you in this video today. This video is brought to you in partnership with musicradar.com. So down below in the description of this video, there's an article that I've written to accompany this lesson. So please go check that out as well, because there's a bunch of useful information over there as well. Now, tone-wise, Rory's a Strat man. I am using my 1983 Tokai Strat style guitar for this. And then amp-wise, I'm actually plugged into the Line 6 Pod Express for this video today. And that is actually set to the chime setting, which is kind of a voxy crunch sort of sound. Rory Gallagher was a big user of a Vox AC30 with a treble booster in front. So I've also got a little overdrive pushing the front end of that amp as well. Real simple setup, Strat, Vox, bit of overdrive, that gets you pretty much where you need to be for the Rory Gallagher tone. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is hybrid picking. Now this is a technique that Rory Gallagher used quite a lot in his playing, and in the context of how he sometimes used this, it actually brought a little bit of a country style guitar edge to his playing, even though he's predominantly playing in kind of a blues rock kind of environment. But even though this has a bit of a country twang to it, you can repurpose this for blues, you can repurpose it for rock, whatever you want. So the idea of hybrid picking is to play a note with your plectrum on one string, and then on an adjacent string, whether that's the string next to it or you can skip a string, you play another note with one of the fingers on your picking hand. So I'm going to play this lick first. So what I'm doing there is I'm playing the D string open with my pick, and then I'm playing a series of notes on the G. But I'm actually doing a pull off each time. Except for that last one, which I'm doing a slide on. What I'm doing though is I'm picking the D with my plectrum, and then the note on the G I'm actually playing with my middle finger, so I'm giving it a little flick upwards to get this snappy sound. You want to get under the string a little bit and kind of pop it. That's the thing that gives it that little country edge. Hybrid picking can also be used for some bluesy style licks as well. So that lick was kind of country-esque because we had that real nice pop to the strings. But if we play that a little bit more subtly, this time I'm going to play a more bluesy lick. This is going to be in the key of G minor. I'm going to be using the G minor pentatonic scale with the open G note. And I'm just going to alternate between the open G and some notes within the scale just to create a bluesy hybrid picking lick. Now all I'm doing there is playing quite a simple blues lick using just the B and E strings on the guitar from the G minor pentatonic scale. So that in itself is actually quite a simple lick, and I'm just adding that open G around those. That adds a completely different flavour to the lick and it instantly sounds a lot bluesier. Another way you can use hybrid picking, which takes it into a little bit more of a rock context, is to actually use it with some fast rock licks. So let's say I'm playing something in the key of E minor a little bit like this. So a very typical classic rock kind of vibe there with that lick. We can actually use hybrid picking to add some Rory Gallagher flavour to that lick. So we're playing the lick exactly the same, but instead of picking all the strings, like we'd previously done, we're actually just going to hybrid pick them. This is a great way to get a little bit of a rolling speed as well. If you're not too confident with your picking speed or accuracy, you can actually use hybrid picking to get quite fast. Works great in a rock context, and you can use that thing rolling up and down scales as well if you want, with all kinds of different lick ideas. Hybrid picking is a really cool thing to add to your blues playing. So the second thing I want to talk about is actually a couple of different things in one. This is the way that Rory Gallagher kind of uses double stop bends and plays real melodic phrases with those double stops. So this is something that you can use for cool effect in a guitar solo, but it can also be used to play hooks, either as like a main guitar melody for a song, or it's a chorus hook, or whatever you want to do. It's a really nice way of taking a pentatonic scale and adding some real nice melody to it. We're going to be adding a note from outside of the scale as well, which we'll talk about in a moment. The lick I'm going to play is kind of a cross between a lick that I heard him play in the Shadow Play solo and the intro kind of guitar hook melody from the track Bad Penny. So this is the lick that I'm going to be playing with this technique. So this lick is actually in the D minor pentatonic scale, and I'm playing entirely pentatonic except for one note, which is this note here, the 9th fret on the G. This is actually from the D natural minor scale, and this is the major second interval. Now this interval is a real nice melodic interval to add to any guitar solo. It just kind of adds a real nice slightly major twist to any lick, which I'm a big fan of. I always tend to throw that one in when I can. Now the lick itself, without the double stops, is actually a really easy kind of pentatonic-ish lick. That sounds pretty straightforward. But what we're doing is we're adding double stops, which creates this real kind of soaring, melodic, and even quite a big sound, because we're actually playing two notes at the same time. So what I'm doing is I'm doing that initial hammer-on run, and then I'm bending the 12 of the G a full step. But as I do that, I'm using my little finger to play the 13 on the B at the same time. And then just releasing that bend and coming back to normal. So I'm still playing the 13 on the B, but also just the 12 fretted. Then I'm dropping to that 10th fret, but you'll notice again, I'm keeping that 13 in place. So this fret does not come off. So I'm basically playing a melody on that G, but while retaining that 13 on the B. The melody is quite simple. Again, I'm leaning into that 9th fret a little bit. But when I play that 13 with it, it gives it a real nice kind of full sound, and we're almost harmonizing with that note every time. It's a really interesting sound, and that is something that Rory Gallagher uses a lot. And I'm ending the lick just with this little hammer-on phrase, which is the 9 to the 10 and back, and then I land on the 12 of the D, which is the root note. When you get to that part, you can actually release the 13 just for that little last lick. That's almost like a Celtic inspired thing. You see Rory Gallagher doing a lot of that kind of stuff in his playing. So I'll play that lick slowly now, just so you can see the finger movements. just because that particular lick had elements of shadow play and bad penny in there doesn't mean you have to play it exactly like that. You can just take the concept and use it for something else. So this can apply to any other double stop. It doesn't have to be specific to that double stop that I played. You could do a double stop, for instance, on the 10th fret of the B and E strings, and they can add some notes around that. You can use the same principle anywhere on the neck with other double stops. And that's a really fun way of just adding a certain fatness to melodic lines. I'm a big fan of that kind of thing. And again, there is a little bit of a country element in there. You can kind of get that to sound a little bit pedal steel in the right context as well, especially if you're playing it with a cleaner tone rather than kind of a more overdriven rock tone. You can actually get some kind of pedal steel flavors out of that as well. So that could be a really interesting concept to try and put into your own playing. Take a super melodic line like Rory would do and add some of those cool double stops to it as well. And the third Rory Gallagher concept you can use to supercharge your blues playing is the way that he would phrase notes. Now, Rory, being Irish, has a strong connection to Celtic music, and he did use a lot of Celtic kind of phrasing and ideas in his guitar playing, which typically is not something that we often associate with straight blues music. But a lot of the stuff that Rory would have done, especially the Celtic stuff, you might actually recognize from some of the things that Gary Moore would have played, because Gary Moore was a huge fan of Rory Gallagher. So he actually borrowed a lot of these ideas in his own playing as well. Now, Celtic phrasing is really interesting because it plays a lot of things with the triplet rhythm. So this works great over a track that's got a bit of a swing to it, but you can also play this over a straight blues or rock track as well. So I'm going to be playing this in the key of A minor, and I'm going to use the A minor pentatonic scale as my bass cam. I'm also going to be going into the second shape. And I'm going to add a couple of outside notes to this as well. Now, the main note I'm going to be adding here to really add this Celtic influence is this note right here. The 4th fret on the D and the 7th fret on the B. It's the same note, and it's an F sharp note. It's actually the major 6. So what we're doing here is we're actually dipping a little bit into A major as well. We're playing A minor with a single note from A major that we're kind of borrowing in. This gives it a little bit more of a Celtic flavour, a bit more of a major flavour. You could probably consider this to be Dorian if you wanted to go down the modal route, because it's got a little bit of that element in there as well. But the easy way to think about it is like a minor pentatonic or a minor scale with a major 6 added. So I'm just adding this one note, and it's going to make a huge difference. Now, something that's really important about Celtic phrasing is that you have to get things into triplets. So we're going to be going 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a. So start playing your scale or whatever groups of notes you're playing in triplets to start. And even though I'm just playing random notes from the scale there in a triplet fashion, it kind of already has a little bit of a Celtic flair to it. What you can also do is you can add these little flourishes, things like this. And also add some extended notes. That works great for some Celtic phrasing ideas. Now, where this sounds really great is when we actually start to climb the scale as well. So going from the lower part to the higher part of the minor pentatonic scale, moving from shape 1 to shape 2. This is the sort of thing you might hear Rory Gallagher play in a guitar solo. And what I'm basically doing there is, again, triplets with those little flourishes and the odd extended note. It's a really fun way to just add a really different texture to your blues playing. It's not something you typically think of as a straight blues idea, but it actually works really well inside blues playing, and it can really create a different sound that you might not already have in your trick bag. Now, one other thing you can do with this, and again, this is something that Rory did a lot, was kind of break up phrases a little bit. So what I did there is I played, with the exception of some held notes, pretty consistently through the up and down of the run. But what Rory Gallagher would also do from time to time is actually create these little breaks in the phrasing. So put in these little stops when you're playing as well. Just those little breaks in the phrasing actually, again, make a big difference. It's something you can use in your own blues playing to create a texture that is very different to the typical blues sound that we often gravitate towards. But yeah, there we go. There are 3 things that we can take from Rory Gallagher. So we've got his use of hybrid picking, which is a great fun technique to throw into guitar solos. His use of super melodic lines with double stop bends to create an almost pedal steel-like sound. And then some Celtic style phrasing, which again breaks up your scale runs, puts you into a different tonal ballpark. Try some of those out in your own blues playing and let me know how you got on down below in the comments. I'd love to also hear what your favorite Rory Gallagher guitar trick is. If there's something you've learned and borrowed from Rory's style, I'd love to hear what that is. So let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to check out the link in the description to the article that I've written to accompany this lesson as well. It's a great resource with a bunch more information about all the stuff we've talked about in this video. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching.